Welcome back to Lessons of Lore, Chapter 2, The Rise of the Gods. Last time we spoke about the colliding energies of light and void giving birth to the twisting nether and material realm, also referred to as the Great Dark Beyond, the Great Beyond, the Dark Beyond, or anything along those lines. Light and void blended into a chaotic maelstrom on the fringes of the twisting nether, while in the material realm, these forces would continue to fight each other, shedding both void and light energies across the Great Dark, or Great Dark Beyond, or whatever you want to call it. I'm going to call it the Great Dark. After a time, the chaos in the material realm simmered down a little bit. The light and the void would continue to do battle, although not nearly as intensely as before. Shards of light would be cast out into the Great Dark from these collisions between the cosmic forces, planting themselves into the cores of passing by planets. As time went on, the void energies would form pocket dimensions, completely devoid of light and matter throughout the Great Dark. Errant shards of light would also begin to coalesce, some into clouds of pure light drifting among the stars, while others would be pulled into the gravity of fledgling planets. The light would infuse the elemental forces within the planet, combining with elements such as fire, earth, air, water, and more importantly, spirit and decay, and they would form the first primitive forms of life, which we call the elementals. There were countless races of elementals that would arise on a great number of planets. Depending on the balance of spirit and decay elements present, they would evolve to be either chaotic or more benevolent and peaceful. The elements were, in general, not the brightest of creatures. Eventually, they would evolve the rare few elementals that would be considerably more powerful. These beings would later become known as the Elemental Lords and rule over the lesser elemental beings. The clouds of light energy eventually gave rise to a race known as the Naaru. The Naaru existed as pure light energy. As such, they would quickly master the art of holy magic. The Naaru were gentle creatures and cared deeply about the sanctity of life. They saw the universe and its vast potential to one day birth newer, higher forms of life, and vowed to nurture and protect life wherever they might find it. We're probably not going to talk about the Naaru again for a long time because they don't really come around again for a while, but know that they're out there and they're doing their thing. And just as the Naaru were formed from clouds of light, the pockets of void also spawned life. Within these void pockets, bereft of light or matter, dark malicious beings would eventually come into being. These beings, named Void Lords, had no corporeal form. They were nothing but consciousness trapped inside the void, only able to observe the universe around them. By far the most powerful beings came from rare instances when a planet became infused with an abundance of light energy. These energies would converge with the elements deep below the surface, creating an immense living energy known as a world soul. These world souls would slumber for eons, nurtured by the life on the surface, and eventually birthing the immense beings known as the Titans. It's not clear if the Titan bodies were made up of the planets themselves or by something else entirely, but it is known that they were immensely powerful. Perhaps the most powerful beings to have ever lived. The Titans also possessed the ability to change their appearance and project themselves as more familiar avatars. This would explain their human appearance in much of the lore. Aman'thul was the first Titan to awake. He took it upon himself to seek out other world souls in the hopes that they would birth more beings like himself. World souls turned out to be incredibly rare. He had to search for a long time to find the first, but eventually he did. The Titans that would awaken from these worlds would join him in his quest, forming what we now know as the Pantheon. Like the Naaru, they too recognized their overwhelming powers. Their close kinship to the forces of order and light no doubt influenced their self-imposed code of ethics, which was to bring order to the worlds where chaos reigned, so that life could blossom in peace. And so they set forth on their cosmic mission. They traveled from planet to planet, leaving behind empowered beings that could continue their work once they had gone. They would also leave behind great machinery that would enable them to remotely monitor the progress of these worlds. Along their journey, they would continue their search for more world souls. Eventually, the Pantheon came to consist of 7 Titans. Aman'thul, the High Father and founder of the Pantheon. Sargeras, defender, champion, and the most powerful of the Pantheon. Agramar, we'll talk more about him later. Aenar, the Lifebinder. Khaz'goroth, shaper and forger of worlds. Norgannon, keeper of celestial magics and lore. And Golganeth, lord of the skies and oceans. life didn't just emerge within the material plane, it also emerged within the twisting nether. The chaotic nature of the nether resulted in life forms that were angry, brash, and violent. They reveled in the abundance of disorderly forces and quickly mastered the arts of fel magic. The many different races within the twisting nether would collectively be referred to as demons. Many types of demons would spill into the material realm, terrorizing its inhabitants. Minor demons, such as infernals and abyssals, could eventually be dispatched back to the nether by those within the material realm. They were no match, however, for the more powerful demons, such as a race known as the Nethrazim. They would take great pleasure influencing the minds of mortals, twisting their thoughts and actions, causing entire civilizations to war with each other and burn. As the populace would descend into chaos, the Nethrazim would corrupt their very souls into new demons to be used anew against other unsuspecting races. Another demon race, known as the Annihilon, would relish in brutalizing the mortals of the material realm, capturing and torturing them whenever possible. And there you have it, the universe in its infancy, the mighty titans and powerful Naaru vowing to protect all life across the cosmos, the titans still looking for more of their kin, the elementals, however primitive, being the predominant form of life and being ruled over by the more powerful elemental lords, and the various demonic races striking out from the twisting nether. And let's not forget the Void Lords looking on from the shadows. A few of my thoughts on this chapter. After researching the lore presented in this video, I still have a few questions. Firstly, did the Naaru and the Titans ever meet each other? It seems like their goals were well aligned. The Naaru were powerful beings indeed, although not nearly as powerful as the Titans. From all the research that I've done, it would seem that they never did run into each other. After all, space is really big. It's very conceivable that they would not have ever known each other until very recently. They would, however, most likely be both aware of the Void Lords and demons, since they were pervasive throughout the material realm. And finally, I'm not sure about the early forms of life. The chronicles mention the elements, but they also mention the fact that the Nethrazim enjoyed subduing societies. This would indicate a far more advanced form of life throughout the cosmos. Perhaps the Nethrazim developed this behavior later on in the timeline when more advanced life forms existed among the planets. The most likely answer is that I'm probably overthinking it. In the next chapter, we'll start looking at how things started to fall apart for the early denizens of the cosmos. Until then, if you have any comments on any of this, please leave them below, and don't forget to like and subscribe.